Okay.
Okay.
The 4x4 Canada podcast. I'm your host, Wes.
And I'm your host, Trisha.
And Mike.
And I'm Mike from the Unexpected Off-Road. Sorry. I missed my cue.
Oh, what a wonderful way to start off that episode, eh?
Oops.
It's all good. Folks, this is a very special episode for Trisha and I, as well as Mike, too. This is our 100th episode of the 4x4 Canada podcast. And, it is such a huge milestone. Yeah. Thank you, Mike. It's such a huge milestone. Trisha and I are so excited about it. It's been a lot of work and a lot of sweat and tears and everything else, but we made 100. So we thought it'd be a really good idea to bring Mike back. He was my very first guest 2 years ago, and he was on episode number 1. And thanks for coming back, Mike. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm just glad it was interesting enough to have a conversation with him. But hey, I got to say something, though. 100 episodes? Think about this. That's a lot of talking. You know me, I love to talk, so. We do. We definitely do. I was just happy to be on your show, and hopefully it was something interesting that people want to listen to. That's pretty much was my goal with it.
It was definitely, for sure. And people, if you have not heard that episode with Mike, go back right to the beginning, episode number 1, where we talked about Mike growing up in Florida and working at Hummer and eventually moving up to Canada and his whole kinky fetish with Hummers, the vehicle Hummers. And so we got lots of great news about Mike and his Hummers coming up. So we're super excited about this.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I feel like I should be having a beer or something now. Like, we should have planned that a bit better.
You should have had champagne.
Yeah, pop the cork and go. So I'm going to throw out the usual stuff. Last week was the episode with the BC Overland Rally. It was a wonderful event. Both Mike and I attended. We had an absolute blast. The new location is wonderful. The episode from last week, if you haven't heard it, is some of the interviews that I did with the vendors at the BC Overland Rally. And if you have not seen or listened to them, go back, check it out. But it's also actually, to be honest with you, better to go to our Instagram page, 4x4 Canada Podcast. And all those are broken into little segments. So little 5-minute or 10-minute interviews with these vendors. And it's a lot easier to understand what we're talking about, especially when it comes to things like Ralph from Summit Expedition Trucks with his aluminum flat decks. And we did a walk around with Vil from Crave Auto. It's a lot better. Go back, check out our Instagram on that. And it's a lot better visual for you guys. Coming up next week, we've got Joel Tremblay. He's out of Northern Ontario, and he's running the Tacoma, and he has an interesting trailer. He has taken a cargo trailer and converted it into a camping trailer. Everything folds up nice and neat inside, so you can still use it as a cargo trailer. And then when it comes camping, it all folds down. Great for him. He's an engineer, and we had some really good talks about that. So we got some other cool interviews coming up. In August, we have Ben from Falcon in the Woods. He owns a Gladiator, and he's out of Nova Scotia. So another East Coaster. We're starting to get more and more of the East Coast guys on here for sure. So that was a lot of fun. We really enjoyed that. We also have Dominique from She Wanders the World. She is coming up towards the end of August, and she is a van lifer. Her and I actually met at the BC Overland Rally. And Mike, she was actually in our talk that you and I gave with Daryl from Van City Adventures.
That's awesome. That went so well.
That was a lot of fun. So I got some more ideas on how to do something a little different next year. But yeah, she was in that talk that we gave, and I talked to her a few times. Wonderful young lady. She has been traveling around North America in her van for the last few years. It's going to be really good for you because we're going to get into the van life mentality. It's very much like the overlanding. People are traveling all over North America or all around the world. So just because it's in a van doesn't mean it's that much different, really. So yeah, we got her coming up on board. Mike, at the BC Overland Rally, did you see that electric Land Rover that was parked behind us when we did that talk? There's an old Series 1 Land Rover that was parked behind us.
I did not realize that was electric.
It is. HESP, HESP. They do electric vehicle conversions on these Land Rovers. So they're coming on the show here soon as well, too. So that's going to be...
that'll be really cool. Be awesome.
They contacted us, and we've got them booked in another week or so. So yeah, they'll be coming up towards the end of August as well, too. So I know you're interested in that because you have a love for some of these electric vehicles, which we'll get into in a second. But yeah, I think that's going to be a really exciting month of August coming up.
That's awesome.
So let's get the sad shit out of the way. We got some sad shit to talk about. Unfortunately, we'll make it quick, people. We know that nobody likes talking about sad shit, but we just need to say a couple things. Episode 100, we're hitting on 2 years. We've lost a few people over the years. This year particularly, we lost Alison Parliament, and she is the one that started the whole Jeep Duck craze, and lost her in a car accident, as well as Malcolm from Crimson Off-Road on YouTube and Instagram. He ran a Gladiator, and we lost him to an accident as well, too. Trisha, more about Alison and the Jeep Duck movement than I do.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to talk about her for a second?
Yeah, I guess being a Jeeper, yes. It's something that I got into really early having the Jeep, wondering, well, what is this duck thing? What am I getting these ducks and going to these events and getting these rubber duckies? Well, that's cute. Okay. Had little double ones and have little different ones. So I got to the point where I actually had my whole dash full with ducks. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
And like each one that I had, I knew exactly who gave it to me or like where I got it from. If it was like a random person who like put it on the parking lot, or if I went to an event. So that's pretty cool. And Alison was a young lady who basically started that whole Doug Jeep. She is from here out of Ontario, and she just started during COVID, and it flew from there and all over the world, states, and people just got into this whole ducking Jeeps. If you like my Jeep, you ducked it. So we had her on the show, and we had a great talk and just found out more of the history about why she started it and how the craze went on. So yeah, in memory of her, they have a Alison Duck now that they're, I think, creating or is out for order in memoriam of her. There's now an Alison Duck. It's pretty cool.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
What a positive thing to do. I just think that's awesome to come up with that idea. And like you said, you have memories of people that were just passing by or thought your truck was cool. I think that's really neat.
Yeah, it's such a good feeling. And I know a lot of people are like anti-duckers, but it's a cool feeling. It's a nice feeling to have. And some people even put their names on it or their Instagram account, so you can go back and be like, hey, thanks for ducking me today. Or so, yeah, it's pretty awesome. So
it's something that brings the community together, whether you're for it, against it, whatever, but it is something that has really brought the Jeep community together. Alison did a very good job with that. She went worldwide, and the whole Jeep community is going to miss her for sure.
Yeah, now, it's definitely a loss.
Yeah. Now, talking about Malcolm from Crimson Off-Road, he did come on the episode once with us, and Mike, you met him. I never had a chance to actually meet him in person, but you did, right?
I did. Yes. So we did. What's the trail out of Vancouver? Eagle Mountain. Yes. I'm sorry. Okay. So yes, a bunch of us YouTubers got together because they had the big car show over there, and it was a surprise. I didn't even know he was going to be there, and super nice guy, like awesome, chill guy, just like me. Wants to go out and just explore, and he wanted to come over to Okanagan so bad to see a lot of the places here. And yeah, he was just an awesome guy. And you run across a couple of people that you meet, and you meet him right off the bat and you click with him. He was one of those guys. You just clicked right away. You felt comfortable with him. We joked around. He was just that guy. And it's so hard to lose a guy like that. That's a good person, basically.
Yeah, it's tough. I did a lot of reflecting after you told me at the BCR about the accident, and that was a 2-hour drive home, and it was a good drive, but did a lot of reflecting about people that are still in my life and people that have passed on, and you never know when your time is going to come with either of these. With either Malcolm or Alison, it was a total accident, hit us out of left field, and it really shows that you just never know when it's going to come. So all I can say is hug your family, hug your friends, tell them all that you love them, and go on, because hopefully we'll be around for a long time, or they'll be around for a long time, but you never know what's going to happen.
And I could say this too. If you got some guys that you want to go out off-roading with and you just keep putting it off, don't put it off. Do it today. Go out and have fun with people, because you never know when a situation like this could happen. And this one hit me really hard. When I was talking to you, Wes, I was shaking. Like it shook me that bad. Like it was hard.
Yeah.
For sure.
Definitely a hard thing when you lose some of your friends, right? So adding on to what you just said, Mike, at the weekend after the BC Overland Rally, I was supposed to go with Corey and Jason up to Baldy on the Sunday. That was something we had pre-planned a while ago, and I backed out, and money was tight, and that, and I backed out, and Jason had a couple things going on. So it's, you know what, we'll do it another couple of weeks. And so that was with you on a Sunday night, the lightning struck and that whole mountain just exploded with fire. Baldy Mountain Forest Lookout is still there, but the mines are gone. And I'm just totally regretting not going that Sunday to show Jason the old mines and stuff like that. I agree with you 100%. Take every opportunity that you can, because now that area is going to be totally different when we do go to explore it again. But luckily, the fire lookout at Baldy is still there, from my understanding, as of this moment. But we have actually lost a couple forest fire lookouts here in BC. And last year, we lost the Hatlich, which was maintained by the Four-Wheel Drive Association of BC, and we lost that one. It will get rebuilt. But as of this week, we are in the last week of July, and we don't have confirmation, 100% confirmation, but it's a 99%, feeling that we have lost the Lavina lookout as well.
Yeah, that's another hard one. If you've never been there, it's an amazing view from there, and it's just an amazing fire lookout to go visit.
Yeah. So I'm sure that it will also get rebuilt in time, but it'll probably be a couple of years with red tape and making sure the road's all good and stuff like that. But it is heartbreaking to lose some of these locations that we have lost to fires, right?
And I honestly think it'll be fast. I would hope it'll be faster than that, because I talked to Kim Reeves when Nahatlatch burned down, and he was telling me they pretty much put the whole thing up in almost a weekend, like the structure of everything. So like they had it built pretty fast. I think the rebuild will be fairly quick. It's just like you said, getting through the government. You got to do the right steps, because you don't want to make the wrong steps and have fines or whatever else that they're going to come down on you with, right?
Exactly. They got to make sure that area is safe. The road up there is safe, right? There's no trees going to fall. There's not going to be any road sloughing away and stuff like that. And they also have to make sure that area where those lookouts are going to be safe as well, so that they can rebuild. So they got to do their tests and all that. So it will be a couple of years, but I think once we get the okay, it'll go up fast. There's going to be tons of volunteers helping out. Yeah. Enough of this sad shit, guys. Let's party.
Yeah. Let's get on to the good stuff.
So, episode 100, it has been a roller coaster of a couple of years. Trisha came on in April of 23 after she was a guest on the show. She messaged me and said, "Hey, that was fun. How can I become more involved, or how can I help out?" And I said, "You want to be a co-host, or you want to be I can't even remember how I worded it, but it was like a part-time co-host or something like that." And then, sure. And then she found out how much work it is. But I have to say, it is a lot of work. But I have to say, Trisha, you have been a godsend to the podcast. There's a lot of work behind the scenes that you do, and I really appreciate you, because I don't know if I would have made it to 100 episodes on my own. And I truly, honestly appreciate everything that you've done. So thank you for joining me and saving my sanity. What are your thoughts
You're very welcome.
I'll be honest with you. Actually, the podcast has been a bit of a saving sanity for me as well. I'd recently got out of a long relationship, and it was a good way to focus my energy. And after a year, Trisha came on board, and just when I started to burn out a little bit. And just that little bit of enthusiasm and help from you has made it keep on going. Like anything, whether it be a YouTube or channel or Instagram channel or whatever, we all go through ups and downs, and we all have our little burnout issues and stuff like that. And what we've started doing is we're actually, right now, I think we're 4 or 5 episodes pre-taped ahead of time. And so we can batch them so we can take off. I mean, you went to Vietnam for 2 weeks. I took 2 weeks off of doing nothing with podcasting. So we can take that time and relax. And I think we've figured out that's what we need to do. We'll hit 2 or 3 interviews a week and get 4 to 6 ahead. And then we can relax for a little bit. We're getting it figured out after 100.
Been a blast. And thank you for taking me on as well. And it's just been fun, and I'm enjoying it. And yeah.
We've met so many interesting people. It's been really neat. Yeah. And it was really funny going to the BC Overland Rally a couple weeks ago, going there, and I was wearing my shirt, and I had people coming up talking to me, people that listen to the podcast. And that really made me feel so good. Hey, this is worth it. People are actually listening, and people are enjoying it. And Mike, you've had that happen at other events as well. It's such a great feeling when you get that, eh?
I had a couple from, oh man, where do they say they were from? Where they?
It was in
Vietnam,
Japan,
somewhere
wasn't it?
over there. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't Japan. It was somewhere. I'm sorry. I'm bad. But anyways, I got to talking because I was at Richard's booth and I got to talking to him and they were talking about, oh yeah, we come over here to go do off-road stuff. And I was like, oh, what kind of vehicle do you have? Oh, we have a Jimmy. I said, oh man, I have a lot of people that follow me on my Instagram from
The Philippines.
Thailand. I think it was Thailand. It was totally Thailand.
Yep.
So Philippines. Okay, gotcha. So anyways, they're like, oh yeah, we started going back and forth, and I said, yeah, I got a lot of people that follow me. So she pulls out her phone and she's scrolling through. She goes, oh yeah, look here, I follow you. I've been following you for a long time. I'm like, you came all the way here for the BC Overland Rally and you met me. What are the? I just was shocked. I just could not believe it. It's crazy. It's nuts to me.
It is so cool meeting people like that. Let's move on to some of our favorite episodes over the last 100 episodes. We're trying to pick out 5 each. Where were you sitting at there, Trisha?
Okay, so mine, I realized that you did a lot of racing episodes. You
Not
really
enough.
like racing.
I want to do more racing for sure. So any of you racers out there, I want to get you guys on the show.
So my number 1 is an episode that we had a young lady by Amber. And the reason I chose this as number 1 because it's really dear to my heart. And Amber Block is who we had on the show, talking about the all-women's event to the Not a Pavement Princess. So that's my number 1. And the reason why it's all-women's event, I recently started trail guiding for the event 2 years now. And all proceeds, donations, etc., goes to Women's Shelter here up north in Halliburton. So it's going to a great cause. We have an awesome, fun trailing day and get a whole bunch of ladies together wheeling. Like, it's the best thing. So that's definitely my number 1.
And I know it's so hard to choose 5 out of 100, right? I really struggled with this. But what are your other ones?
Okay, so I like racing too. And a fun one that we had was the Tosterone Off-Road Racing League, where we had the guys come on from the States, which I think is probably our only guest that's from the States. Us, I think.
Except for Mike.
Oh.
That's true. That's true.
That is actually technically
my little secret.
We have had one off-road racer that he's out of Washington and he raced a lot in BC. So we did have Roger on, but yeah, that was our only other one, was that one. So explain what that was about.
So that was a fun one. I found these guys and just going through and YouTube and Instagram, and I'm like, off-road racing with go-karts? What? Go-karts? Yeah, I gotta check these guys out. So I go on, check them out. Their stuff is hilarious, one. And they just make these go-kart rigs, lights, motors, everything. And they're just racing. They're based out of Oregon, but they have a few tracks. I believe in Oregon, some other places. But it is hilarious and it just seems so much fun. And then after that, I'm like, I gotta get a buggy.
And these are just like Princess Auto buggies. Yeah, they're not like real off-road buggies. They're just like Princess Auto buggies. So yeah, a lot of fun for sure.
A lot of fun. So that was a good one because it was just fun to watch. The guys are hilarious and they're fun having them on. So it was nice.
Okay. And what else you got for your other 3? We'll continue through.
Okay. One that was pretty cool and a unique vehicle was Bucky the Truck. Bucky the Truck was a overland truck, and I think should we say it's the biggest overland truck probably that's in Canada? It's a DAF, what I wrote here. DAF, huge truck. And his story from traveling with the truck from, I think, South Africa to England, from Egypt with that truck.
Yeah, that was a fun one. Yeah, that's one of those big, it's like a big Iveco style rigs. Like, it's just massive. And yeah, that was really interesting talking with that one and how he built it out and stuff. So huge, massive thing and just going on the road with it and it's pretty cool. My next one, mega trucks.
are cool. And the couple that you had on, I wasn't on this episode, but the couple you had one was Dave and Leanna, who have their his and hers monster trucks.
Yep.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And they do all the like the mud racing. So okay, mud and mud. Yes. Mud, I'm there. So pretty cool one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
but
pretty cool. They're running, yeah, exactly. Mega trucks, the big, huge monster tires and the tractor tires, and they're running like 2,500 horsepower. And Anna's the president of the Northwest Mud Racing Association. So I've talked to her quite a bit over the years. So yeah, that was a really fun interview because you're talking about horsepower and just jumping. And it's really neat having a his and hers vehicles. So yeah. So what was your last one?
Okay, the last one is also another unique vehicle. I guess I like all different kinds of vehicles, not just Jeeps. It was the gentleman you had on with his Land Rover, the Series 1 Land Rover. And he went with that Land Rover from London to Singapore. And I can't remember the name now on top of my head.
That was Ray and Marianne from the BC Overland Rally.
Okay.
And that was a really interesting... We split up the interview between the BC Overland Rally and this whole trip from London to Singapore. And they did this whole Series 1 Land Rover that they also brought their 3 teenage boys with them as well. And did this 9-month trip or whatever it was. And they went through everywhere, right? Everywhere from Italy, Turkey, Iran, Iraq, or all the India and all that stuff. And it was quite interesting. They started off as a little Land Rover that they picked out of a field, and it ended up catching on fire on the way to the port. And it was really fun story about talking about how people help them out along the way. That's one thing I've really gotten out of a lot of these interviews, especially people that traveled abroad, is how everybody is so opening to help. And one thing that really struck out to me is the people that have the least are the ones that give the most. They're the first ones there. They might be starving themselves, but they're going to offer you food. They're going to offer you whatever they can, bedding or place to stay or help fixing your vehicle and stuff like that. And it's people that seem to have the least are the ones that are most willing to give. And that has really struck a strong chord in myself as well. But yeah, definitely want to go back and check out that interview with Ray and Marianne going from London to Singapore in a Land Rover. That was pretty awesome. So yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's cool. That is
really cool. And Ray has that, he's a great storyteller. And the way he delivers a story, it's so awesome. To hear him tell a story is just amazing.
Yeah.
It is. And yeah, for sure. So that was interesting, Trisha. I wasn't exactly expecting those out of your favorites. So that's quite interesting. Yeah. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I really love that you have a wide variety in there. So how about you, Mike? You got some good ones, I know.
Yeah, I got some good ones. My first one is the Maniac and Jurassic Attack, the monster truck one. And I'm a kid of the 80s, and I love monster trucks. That's just growing up and seeing monster trucks are just awesome. Bigfoot, great digger. But always living in the US and now living in Canada, like I didn't realize Canada had their own like monster trucks and guys that built them and everything. So it's super interesting to me to hear stories about these guys that built these trucks back at the same time in the early days of the monster trucks and bringing them up. That's just super interesting to me. I like I said, I'm a monster truck guy. I just love the big sound, the big tires, and just especially the early ones. I love the early monster trucks. They're so awesome.
Seeing the tricks, the backflips in the air.
Oh,
yeah.
Even before then, when crushing a car was something that was just blow your mind, right? Like,
I remember as a kid, like I said, Bigfoot came around, and Bigfoot come around to the Ford dealerships. This was before they had the monster truck shows. So he would come around to the Ford dealerships, and he would crush Chevys on the dealership lot. So how awesome was that?
Yeah, we want to get some more monster truck guys on. We just had a recent interview with Mike, who restored one of the original monster trucks in Canada, the Big Bad and Bouncy. And we want to get some more on. I've been talking to the few guys, just trying to work around their schedules. These guys are traveling all over, North America, but we do have a couple of monster truck guys lined up for sure. And I agree with you. I'm more into the old school stuff myself too. So what else you got on your list there, Mike?
It's hard to pick stuff, right? Like it definitely is hard. Adam's Off-Road Shop. And Adam is a great guy. His story, how he built his shop, and how successful he is. It's just amazing to me. I'm an automotive technician and I've been in shops for a long time. And to see a guy jump from working in dealerships and other places to make his own shop and be that successful, that just blows me away. It's so awesome.
Yep.
I love that for him.
Yeah. And that whole thing is built on customer service, and it still is. When he opened it 3-4 years ago, whatever it is, that was his big focus, was customer service, and he's hit it. And that's Adam's Off-Road Shop out of BC, and he does ship all over North America. So if you guys are looking for something, definitely give him a shout. Really good bunch of people there.
Yeah, awesome dude. I love hanging out with him. I love going to the shop. I randomly will sneak into the shop and then go see him if I'm there. And they love that. So no, he's a really awesome dude.
For sure. What else you got?
My other one, I had to actually, some of these I had to actually go back and re-listen to because I remembered them and then I remembered bits and pieces of it. The Ford Bronco Off-Road Racing Ontario with Nicole McCrossa. Is that right?
Yeah. McCrossan. Yeah.
Her story is awesome. I just was so tuned into that and listened to the whole thing all at once. And it just, I loved her story about racing a Bronco. And I believe, did she get one of her dad's Broncos and restore it or something? I just thought that story was awesome. I thought that was so cool to hear her race against the guys. And I love that kind of thing.
Yeah. Go girls.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Girl power.
That was a lot of fun because, her dad raced this Bronco back in the 90s, and she has gone and rebuilt it and is now racing it herself. And she actually races against her dad in his current Bronco at a few races too, right? So it's a lot of
cool
fun
story.
for sure. Yeah. Yeah. And her dad was actually, I think, our third guest on the show. Second or third guest, and we talked about with Steve McCrossan. We talked about when he went down to Nora racing his Bronco, and he used to race Pro 4 and the short course races in the States as well too. So if you guys haven't heard that one, go back and check it out. That was another great conversation. Sorry, Mike, I keep on interrupting you.
Oh no, I love this. I love going back and forth. My other one was desert racing off-road buggies from the 70s to the 90s. What I thought was so cool about this, I can't remember the gentleman's name in it, but the guy raced against Ivan Stewart. That guy is the holy grail of off-road racing. To race against that guy, that's like racing against Mario Andretti or Richard Petty, or that's amazing. To hear that story, I just thought that was so cool.
Yeah, that was a fun one because they raced down in the Baja. They raced down in the mid 400, and some of those stories of off-road racing back in the 70s with these buggies. And back then, it was more of a struggle for survival than if you finished, you had a pretty good chance of placing decent, right? So it was really interesting racing the desert back then for sure.
And he was saying about how all the guys just got beat up because of suspension. It wasn't like we have now with this big suspension. Just his friends just got beat up from just the sheer force of the truck just beating across all the bumps. It's so cool. They were men
technology
back then.
It's changed so much, sometimes for the better and sometimes not.
Oh, yeah,
for sure. Was that all for yours?
That's it for mine.
Okay.
Oh, the London to Singapore was another one that on my list, but we already talked about that. So that's it for me. Like you said, it's hard to pick. There's so many good ones out there, and just these are ones that really struck with me, and I thought it was really fun. So
it was so hard for me to sit down and try and pick 5. It's like trying to pick your favorite child, right? It's just, you love all of them. And to all the guests I've been on here that didn't make our personal lists, you guys all did wonderful. And we all loved every single episode. And it's just, there's something that in each of these episodes that just hit us. Just something little sometimes, and sometimes something major, right? Like with wheeling with the ladies and stuff like that. That's obviously a huge thing for you, Trisha. That's obviously going to be one of your first ones. But a lot of times it's just something that just caught us. And I really, how do you pick your favorite out of 100 episodes?
It's really hard.
Oh, I struggle so hard with it.
And like you said, we had so much fun with everyone. Everyone who's come on the show, do not feel any type of way or don't feel bad because we loved all of you guys. You guys are all great, and just to meet the people that you follow and see and talk to and just to have that conversation was awesome to meet everyone. So no regrets. Love you guys.
Yeah. I think if people have asked me that before, and a lot of times I say the last interview because is just still resonating with me in my mind. But I tried to pick 5, and one of them actually was one of our latest episodes, came out on July 24th, and that was Destined for Wild with Josh and Vanessa, and they went from British Columbia down to Argentina. That really struck me for some reason. We've discussed this with other people that have traveled around the world, like Bucky in Africa and England and that, and Ray and Marianne going from London to Singapore. And we've had some great conversations there. But this last one with Josh and Vanessa just struck me with that urge to go down to Argentina, right? Pay off my bills and take a year and go down. It's just, I don't know why. It just struck a bone with me. And I don't know, it's there, right? It's just gnawing at the back of my head. And so thanks to Josh and Vanessa for that. I think about it every single day now. I always thought about it before, but now it's at least a couple times a day. But that was really interesting because we talked about everything from the people to all the different things they did. So I really enjoyed that one. Destined for Wild with Josh and Vanessa. Going back into February this year, I really enjoyed the talk that I had with Clayton from Dirt Garage. And Dirt Garage, he has a YouTube channel. His primary focus is on Toyotas. I love my Toyotas. I love my Jeeps and all that vehicles too. But it was just a really neat conversation. He has a huge following on YouTube. And the dude is just a regular guy, right? It's just like you and me sitting here, Mike, talking, or we're talking around the campfire and stuff like that. Clayton's just a regular dude, just having fun and building trucks. And we talked about all kinds of different things. He's got that great big Toyota Tacoma on 40s, and it was just a fun conversation and about a whole different things.
I think what makes it great about him, and like you said, he's just like an average dude that just figures things out. Yeah. If he's got to weld this or if he's got to put this engine in, whatever, that's what makes his story interesting, because he's just got a garage that he doesn't have a lift. He doesn't have a lot of things, and he's got some tools, but to watch him cobble things together and make it work, I just think is super interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed that one for sure. My next one was also with the Toyota theme as well. I had an interview with Vil from Crave back in February 23 from Crave Automotive in Calgary. And they're known as the Toyota Tacoma specialists, and they do other work on other vehicles, but Toyotas are their big thing. And I actually had a chance to finally meet Vil at the BC Overland Rally and do a walk around Reagan app. But back in the episode where we talked about the Crave shop, there was things I was looking for answers from myself, whether it be what are the best control arms and different things like that. And so it was a real interesting interview for myself to gain some of that knowledge that Vil has about the Toyota industries. And we also talked a lot business wise and stuff like that. And I like to think to this day that Vil is a good friend of mine. And I know that if I need any assistance on a technical help or anything like that, just give him a shout and he can help me out. But I just found that one quite interesting from a personal perspective. Also from a personal perspective, Ken from Wild Med Kits. I talked to him in September of 2022. He's an ER nurse, and he also does training for wilderness first aid and that. And he builds these first aid kits at wildmedkits.ca, I believe it is. And at that point in time, I just sold my Xterra not too long ago, and I got into my Tacoma, and I forgot my first aid kit in the Xterra. And so I left with the Xterra. I didn't have a first aid kit. So I'm like, what do I do? Do I piece one together? Do I buy a Costco one? What do I do? So we talked a lot about first aid kits, but what interested me more is we talked a lot about wilderness first aid, what to do in some of these instances, hypothermia. I've taken first aid courses before, and all they do is they show you how to hook up a defibrillator and how to call for help, right? I think a lot of the first aid are non-existent, really, to be honest with you. Yeah. Like your level 1 is, I think, pretty much useless. Yeah, exactly. So this was really one. We talked about hypothermia. We talked about what happens when you twist an ankle, what happens when you get a laceration. And we talked a lot about stuff that actually happens out when we are out exploring. And I learned so much about in that episode, and I got to bring him back because I'll have to admit, I've forgotten half of it. It was such a fun and learning interview for me as well, too. So that's 4 out of the 5. How to pick one more. So hard. But you know what? I'm going to throw it back with Mike. I've got it listed here as old off-road racing. I couldn't pick one out of them.
Nice.
There are so many. Everybody that knows me knows I'm into the old school off-road racing stuff. We had some great interviews. We had Broncos racing in Ontario. We actually had two interviews with people racing the Broncos back in Ontario. There's the Shell Bronco. We've had Broncos are racing in the 80s. Broncos are racing currently. We've had a few people in BC about off-road racing. And so we want to get more of those people on. One of the reasons I started the podcast originally was because I wanted to capture some of those memories of our elders. And they're all getting up there in age. We're starting to lose some of them. And I really want to try and focus this next little bit on having conversations with some of our elders, whether it's racing or just regular four-wheeling, about some of the stuff they did back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, and trying to save those memories and before we lose those people. So definitely want to do more of that coming up. But that was my 5-ish.
That's awesome. 5.
It was so hard to do, guys. I know you struggled with it too. It was hard. Really hard to do. So enough about us and our 100. We're bloating, we're gloating, we're loving this. But we actually also brought on Mr. Mike from the Unexpected Off-Road. And we brought him back because, like I mentioned earlier, he was our very first guest on episode number 1. And a lot has happened in the last 2 years since we had you on, Mike. I want to remind our listeners about you, your Unexpected Off-Road on Instagram and YouTube, and you're basically a Hummer boy, correct?
Pretty much. Yep. Hummer fanboy. I'll take it.
So why don't you give a little bit of history, real quick rundown for our listeners, and then we can hop into the news that you have.
Yeah, it's just a quick background for me. So basically, my introduction into off-road stuff was through a Hummer as a technician. I worked as a service technician at the dealership. And then they trained me to take people off-road, and we got to do off-road gatherings with our customers twice a year, which is amazing. That was my dream job. And so that's where I got introduced in the four-wheel drive and stuff. And from there, that's why I really like the Hummer brand, is because I worked 10 years basically for Hummer. And it was an amazing job. That was my dream job. If you listen to that podcast where I talked about that, you can tell I really love that job. And there hasn't been any job that's held up to that by any means. And that was in Florida. I grew up in Florida, and it was Hummer of Orlando where I worked at. And believe it or not, Florida does have off-road trails. They're sand and mud. You love mud. I know you love mud. So.
Yep.
But yeah, lots of mud down there, lots of sandy trails and stuff like that. But yeah, that's where I grew up. And my dad had a dune buggy when I was a kid, and that's probably what sparked it for me when I was a kid, riding around in that. But yeah, that's basically my backstory on that. And that's why I like the Hummer brand so much.
So you're running a Hummer H2. You've been running that thing for a while, and
yep.
Tell us where this whole channel name, The Unexpected Off-Road, came from.
Yes, I've been off-roading this truck for, almost 14 years now. 14 years now. That's crazy. I didn't even think about it. Every weekend, I'm out in the truck just having fun. And it doesn't matter if I was in Florida, wherever I was. Like, you get to the spot that's hard to get to, and there's a couple Jeep guys around you. And I'm sorry, it's always Jeep guys. They're always like, how did you get here? There's no way. Come on. Like, that truck doesn't make it here. That truck doesn't go off-road. Like, no. It's a fluke that you got here. You just, whatever. But yeah, and that's what it boils down to. It's just, people just didn't believe where I put my truck. I put through skinny trees and make all these places, and they just didn't believe that I could drive my truck where I drove it. So that is where the unexpected part come from, for sure. And I love my H2. It's an awesome truck. Yeah. Well, let me talk about the H2. Can I do that right now?
You bet. Yeah.
Okay. Basically, what happened is my motor basically died in the truck. The oil pump went and bearings. Yeah, basically. So it wasn't catastrophic. It was slow. I knew it was coming to an end. And actually, I was driving up to the ski hill to go snowboarding, and it completely died on me. I needed a new motor. So that's where things for my channel took a dive, because, like you said, things happen. That's pretty major. I had to come up with an engine. I was going to rebuild the engine, and then I thought, you know what, it's going to take so long. I can do that kind of work, but it's just with the downtime with it. I need my truck. So basically, what I came up with is I got a GM crate motor, LS364 470 horse for somewhere around there from GM through my work. Because guess what? It has a 3-year warranty on it. So why not? If you go get your engine built at, you name any engine builder, Texas Speed or whatever. Actually, I call it Texas Speed. There's no warranty. It's a race motor. Like, their motors are built for race applications, and there's zero warranty on it. If you drive it for one day and it blows up, it's your own fault. So to have that security of 3-year warranty on it, that was just okay. And it's got almost 500 horsepower. Yeah, sure. So the beauty of it is, so the H2 comes with a 6.0 liter LS motor, basically, from the stock motor. So this motor is basically the same motor with Corvette heads, Corvette cam, and a couple other little goodies that they throw in there to really bump the power up on the truck on that motor. And it just fits right in. Like, it literally just drops because it's all the same, bolts up to the transmission, all that. What's funny, I'm gonna knock on a Jeep, guys, just one bit. So you got your 3.6, and your 3.6 is not the best power in the world. You can't just throw another motor in it like I can. I could throw a bigger LS in it and a really crazy built LS in my truck and go. You can't. It's harder to do that in a Jeep. I hate to say it, but that's one of the things I really loved about my truck, is having that LS platform. That is, I'll dare say, that LS motor is the best motor on the planet. That's why you see LS in everything. They put an LS in everything you can think of. They can fit an LS into, because it's such a tight motor and makes such great power. And basically, I was filming that took up some time, took more time than more frustration of just filming. And basically at the end of that, I still got to do the video. I haven't edited it, but like at the end of it, I just set the camera up and just started working, because I had a shop for a week. So a buddy of mine, I rented a bay from him for a week to do the engine. And so it started getting down to 2 days, and I'm like, oh no, I got to get this done. So then it was like, I didn't realize how much filming would take up time, and it took up a lot of my time. Towards the end of that, it's not going to be such a great video, but I had to get things done. And then, so the same shop, basically, they're a performance shop, 4Function Autosport. They're out of Kelowna. Good friend of mine, Dave. So basically, that motor that I put in the truck had to be tuned to the new injectors and all the new parts that I put in. It did run, but it didn't run like perfect. He brought in an engine tuner guy from Vancouver. Can't remember the guy's name, but anyways, he come in. He's a real LS expert guy, and put my truck on the chassis dyno, which I don't know if I should explain probably to people what a dyno is. So basically, it's a platform that the truck sits on, and there's 2 sets of rollers. So there's rollers for the front and rollers for the back. And basically, with the tires spinning from your motor powering it, that those rollers measure how much power your truck is actually putting to the ground, which that's a huge thing, because our 4-wheel drive trucks eat up a lot of power. There's a ton of power loss. And so the funny thing was, we had a bet, how much power is it going to make? And so everybody was all across the board. It'll make 500 horsepower easy. You got big injectors in there and this and that. And it's funny because the guesses were just all across the board. I had a lot of fun with it. My friends had fun with it too. And at the end I wish I had the dyno sheet here in front of me. I think it was like 245 or 260 horsepower or something like that.
At the wheel.
At the wheels. Basically, my truck is full-time 4-wheel drive. So it's turning the transfer case, the transmission, the 37-inch tires. Like, there's a lot there that gets ate up by them. But the LS, the tuner guy, he looked at the torque curve and he says, don't worry about the horsepower numbers. You're not racing this thing. You want a longevity of this motor. You want it to last long. And the torque curve, it just was a mountain. Like, it just took off and just went straight up. And that's exactly what you want in an off-road truck. You want that torque. I was really scared that with the Corvette heads and the Corvette cam, that it would be more of a high-end, high-revving kind of engine. And it turned out to be pretty good. GM put this motor together for guys that had older, like 2002 Silverados, that they wanted to put a new motor in that had a little more go, right? And they put this together, has a truck oil pan on it. It's made for truck applications, basically. It's not like a hot rod motor or something like that. But But yeah, that was a fun project. And sorry if I got a little too nerdy there on my on the stuff. But it's funny because I took the truck out and it's basically double the torque that it had before. And so in 4-low in first gear going up the hill, it pulls like really good. Like it drives really well. I got back on the pavement and you know how it is. You get something new and you're like, oh, I want to see how fast it goes, whatever.
Oh boy.
So I got on the pavement and I had it in 4-high lock because traction control in 4-high it just takes over too much and kills things. So I had it in 4-high lock. I nailed the throttle and took off, and this thing was chirping all 4 tires. Like it wasn't just like chirping it was just like a steady. As I'm taking off, I'm like, wow, this thing is. It obviously never. The H2 won't get out of its own way, but it's still not like a super fast truck. But man, the amount of torque and that makes a huge difference. That's going to be a really fun truck to drive off road now. You don't even feel the 37s. The 37s, yeah.
Yeah, because you're just getting into dialed in now. You got it dialed in, but you haven't really had it on or off road a whole bunch since the engine swap.
Nope. Just we went to that Cornwall lookout and I didn't have it tuned at that time. So I had to be really careful with it. So no, I've been wanting the fire season comes quick and things get crazy. So I haven't been a chance to got out with the truck, and I will be soon here. Definitely get it out.
Yeah. We got to get out soon and try it a bit more.
Oh yeah.
So do you want to talk about your new addition to your family?
Yeah. So
this is another.
Yes. This things kind of happen all at once. Like I didn't expect the motor to go south of my truck. All right. But so this is also what's going to make more sense about my name. I had the foresight to think about this ahead of time. So when I was making my name, I wanted to make a searchable name. I want to make it like fit my brand, basically. And so my whole plan of my YouTube channel was to get a Hummer EV. Like that was the goal. Whether I built the channel big enough, got sponsored, whatever, to make it happen. So that was my driving force. And once again, I want to thank Richard from Freedom Recovery Gear because he was the biggest supporter of me and biggest person to tell me, hey, you need to do this. So that is why that's part of the unexpected off-road too, because nobody expects a EV electric vehicle to go off-road. What are you doing? It's going to run out of battery. Like, how are you going to tow it back? People aren't really open to that right now because EVs are a new thing and everybody's stuck in their ways. Nobody wants to change. So I had an opportunity to get a truck and I just couldn't pass it up. It was a big decision to make and I didn't take it lightly. It took me a while to come around to it, and it is an absolutely amazing truck. I did drive it off-road here 2 weeks ago, and when I tell you this, I absolutely mean it. It is like driving a Corvette off-road. Like the sheer acceleration on gravel, it's crazy. Like I've never been in like race trucks. I imagine race trucks accelerate obviously pretty fast in gravel, but this truck, the traction control and everything, it just literally takes off. The front of the truck lifts so high off the ground that the rearview mirror has a camera that points out the back of the truck. It literally points at the ground when the truck's taking off. That's how hard the truck takes off. It scares people. One of my friends was in a truck. He's, are we wheeling? Are the front wheels coming off the ground? What's going on? Like, it is accelerating so hard.
Just like, I just picture like a big Hummer, square box, just going.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's fast. Yeah. 0 to 60 is like 2.8 or 3 seconds. Something that heavy. Basically, it's just under 9,000 pounds. Should not accelerate that fast. Like
that's 9,000 pounds, and then that fast.
It's mind numbing.
It was funny when because I came over and saw you like the weekend after you got the truck, right? 3-4 days, whatever it was. Oh, yeah. And I come over and it was I think I told you this before off air, Trisha, but we're sitting there and it's pouring rain out and Mike just punches it from a stop. And that thing threw me back into the seat. And I swear, I was sitting in my buddy's 1,000 horsepower Pro Street Nova, right? The launch on that thing was so incredible. It just totally blew me away. I did not expect, I knew it had a lot of power, but it just totally absolutely blew me away. And it hooked. Like it's pouring rain, right? It should be spinning. And that thing hooked so hard. It was just incredible. I was so impressed with it.
The traction control is so good on it. GM did a really good job developing that. They made the truck for off-road use, right? That's what's... I know most people aren't going to take them off-road, but that's what it was built on the Hummer brand.
Now, the other cool thing that you and I played around a bit on that day was the rear wheel steering. Like we went into a parking lot, Trish, we did a circle kind of idea. And I swear it was just as tight as a Jeep TJ. How it turned upon itself, like it was just the turning radius is just absolutely incredible with that rear steer.
That's a game changer. It is absolutely a game changer to be able. I can't wait the day when I go up to these switchbacks and everybody's got to back up and go back like 3 or 4 times, and I just go right up and turn. Like I can't wait for that day.
I was really impressed. Like I say, it had turning radius of a Jeep TJ, right? Like it was incredible. And then the T-tops, that's the other thing I love too. It's got T-tops front and rear, Trisha. Like it is so cool.
So it's like double 80s style, double Camaro, right?
I was just looking, so I just looked up and I'm like, I want to see, because I'm into like racing and F1, right? And like race cars. So I'm like, hey, let me see at 0 how acceleration. They're saying the fastest right now, 1.9 seconds, but 0 to 60, 2.6.
Wow.
That's impressive, eh?
You're Hummer.
Yes.
What is this comparison?
It's nuts.
Against the F1 car.
Yeah. You did an interview, or you did a, what the hell am I trying to say? You did a video the other day on Instagram, and where you're talking about how well the traction control worked on like the Forest Service road, on the dirt road, right? And how you're giving it, and there's no give, there's no slip, there's no nothing on how. It just shows you how well this thing is engineered on regards to traction control.
So what is it with that? What did they do differently to get that traction control? A lot of components, or is it?
Yeah, you're talking a lot. There's a lot of things going on there. The basic parts of it are speed sensors in the wheels, but it's the speed sensors. The way I could explain it, it's like going from regular definition TV to ultra high definition TV. So basically, the speed sensor monitors that increments of speed even greater. So that's where GM has done really well with it. The shock package, the air, it rides on air. It's got airbags all the way around. Shocks make a huge difference on accelerating. You got G sensors that are measuring the side forces, the forward forces, all that together. GM has done. It's the same thing they've done with the Corvettes over the years, and they've developed a lot of that stuff. I remember when the 5 first came out, C6, and I was looking at the accelerometer inside of it and the G forces you could do, the side loads on it, and just what you could do back then. It was like 1G on a skid pad. It was like, wow, that car was amazing, right? So GM has got a huge background in the traction control, and it's gotten way better over the years. I don't know if that's a good way to explain it, but I'm trying to not to be too nerdy.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I'm like, there must be a lot of components to get like. Yeah,
there definitely is. There's a computer that's just dedicated just to traction control and all those functions.
Wow.
And then the other thing too, you mentioned the airbags, and that you can raise and lower this thing. You can drop it right down if you want to head down on the Coquihalla, and then you can raise it up into off-road mode too.
Yeah, it goes up. Man, I wish I knew the stats right now.
It was like 7 inches or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like 7 inches, and I believe it has a total at the top of 15 inches of ground clearance.
What?
Yes. Now I will tell you. I will tell you this: when you put it all the way up in that top mode, it's like riding on hydraulics. Like you see those lowrider cars with the hydraulics and they're bouncing. Yeah. It bounces. There's no suspension at the top. Like it's rough. It's only made to get over a rock or something that you need to get over. Right. But it's crazy how high it can go, and then it's crazy how low it can go. Like it goes to a park mode and it looks like a lowrider. The tires are all tucked. You ever seen those lowrider? You see them at the parking lots or whatever, and the tires are all like tucked in.
Yeah, and you're
Well,
like,
when it sits down,
over like a rock or anything. Yeah.
yeah. When it goes to the park mode, it tucks the tire. It's just geometry of pulling the tires in, but it's just funny to look at it.
So is that an air ride suspension?
Yeah, full all the way around air ride.
Around.
And it's a charged system with CO2, I believe it is. No, sorry, nitrogen. So we have a special procedure because they have the same system on like the Tahoes and the Yukons, the airbags on there. But yeah, you have to charge it. It's got its own tank that basically airs up and deflates the bags. So it's all captured. It's not like the old days where they had air compressors. So the H2s used to have air suspension in the back, and the air compressor have to come on, and it's really noisy. You don't hear anything. All you hear is valves clicking on and off, and every once in a while you hear a psh, which is funny to hear it exhaust itself.
What was that?
Whoa, what's that? Was that a locomotive that come by and it was exhausting its brakes?
It's the nitrous going off.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I know that really nitrous just like
The one thing about it too is you've got different mode. Like a lot of our vehicles have different modes now, but at least I know like the Tacomas do, and I'm sure the Jeeps probably do. They have a rock crawl mode and all these other ones. And yeah, so you got all those modes as well. But there's some really interesting things I found when we were driving with it. You and I tried a few different things, but the technology is just, I don't know. One thing I really noticed is that I thought I'd be really quiet, but it's not as noisy as a gas engine. And maybe that's just because of the tires that you have on that one. I'm not sure. But I actually found it nice to have a little bit of noise in there rather than just the other vehicles I've been in where they're like so silent.
Yeah, and it's funny. So the tires, it's got mud terrains, the Goodyear Territories, which I don't think they're a mud terrain. They look ish. I would call them mud terrain. I call them all terrain. But anyway, they are noisy. They do have a bit of road noise. But GM actually designed engine noise into the speaker system. So you hear when you're, that's just it accelerates so fast. And you need to hear something to know that you're actually accelerating, right? That's where these people on the Teslas with the plaids, they crash a lot of those at like parking lots and like on side streets because they put it in the fast mode and they don't realize how fast the thing's going to take off. And then they end up hitting a tree or end up doing something crazy because they don't know that the car is taking off. And that's what GM designed into it is to hear, you need to hear something, some kind of feedback that you're taking off. The first time I launched the truck, not launched it, but took off on a gravel road, it scared me. I thought I was going to go into trees. Like it took off and I'm just like, whoa, like you got to respect how fast this thing is going to take off. But yeah, that's what they did is they put engine noise in there and you can actually turn that up and down in the settings, which that's neat. If you want in a performance mode, you obviously want to have it a little bit louder, right? But
that's one thing I found with EVs or like hybrid cars is that they're super quiet. Even I'll be out walking the dog and everyone's driving electric cars here in the city. So you can barely hear them. I'll be standing at the corner and getting ready to walk across the road at the light and they're just right there. I'm like, what the hell, where did you come from? They're like silent creepers like around the corner. And that can be also dangerous because I don't recognize them. I don't hear a car. So I could just go in and walk in front and my parents do have an EV too. So I drove it once and I'm like, what the hell? I don't even know if this thing's on. It's so damn quiet.
Yeah. Yeah, they are very quiet. They do have a pedestrian alert system. So mine has that. It's like a droning odd noise. And it's funny, we got the Blazer EVs in just recently. And it sounds like the Starship Enterprise coming by. It's got that weird sci-fi sound coming by you. It's so weird. But you need that noise, right? It's hilarious, but you need it to alert people.
Yeah.
What is something that surprised you? You did a lot of research. You knew what was coming into this. What's something that surprised you the most about this?
Oh, that's a good one. I guess the four-wheel steering. I didn't realize, I didn't know how good it would be. GM had four-wheel steering back in the 2000s. The pickup trucks had a version of it, and it was okay. It wasn't nothing too crazy. But yeah, the steering definitely blew me away of how well it worked. Because I thought, it might just be one of those selling points where it doesn't actually work. But no, it works very well. That's the biggest shocking, and that's my most favorite part of the truck by far. I love it.
What's something that you're not really a fan of?
Well, it does have its quirks. I'll admit that.
Yep.
The roof panels, so the T-tops that you talked about, they're transparent and they're not tinted enough. Like they're not dark enough or don't have enough solar protection. So you don't think about this because you're a gas guy. You drive a car and AC's on, right? You go to the gas station. You could actually run your car. I know you're not supposed to. You can actually run your car with the AC running and stick the pump in and pump your gas, right? I know they tell you not to do that, but you could. So on an EV, when you go to the charging station, if you want to get the fastest charging times out of your truck has to be off. So no AC, no fan running. Like you want that. You don't want to be sitting there. It's like basically 38 minutes to charge it up to 80%. If you turn the AC on, you could be there an hour and a half, right? So when you're sitting especially if you're on a road trip and you're sitting at the charging station and you roll the windows down and the sun is beating down on you through these windows, it is heating you up. You're cooking like an egg sitting in there. So that's my biggest pet peeve of the truck. It's definitely something they had an oversight on, and I got to try to figure out how to fix it. So when we went down to the Overland Expo, we took the truck down to Redmond, Oregon, to the Pacific Northwest. We stopped at an AutoZone, and I got one of those baby sunshades, the ones that they kind of retract.
Sick.
And they've got little suction cups on them, and they suction cup right to the roof panel. And game changer, it worked. It got us through. We didn't bake in the sun. It's funny because my wife, she was laughing at me. She's like, really? And then she's, that really works.
Yeah.
The power trunk that comes up and goes down. Sometimes it doesn't open. Sometimes it's quirky. It acts weird. Same thing with the rear tailgate, that it opens up. I think it's Sequoia does that, right? Where it opens, the swings. The tailgate swings open.
I was going to ask you that if it swings out like a Jeep tailgate, or does it come up?
Like a Jeep tailgate. It swings, basically it swings towards the passenger side of the vehicle. But it's electric and you push a button and sometimes it doesn't want to open. That I don't really, I wish it was just had a button or a latch. You could just grab it and open it. But
I thought that was weird. You and I were talking when I was at your house and about how that door swings to the passenger side, but that's the side where the sidewalk is, right? So you think it would open to the driver's side so you can take your stuff out and go to the sidewalk. Because right now, if you open it to the passenger side like it is, you actually have to take your stuff out and then close your door so you can actually get access to the tailgate. I always thought that was a little weird.
Yeah, it is a bit weird. And then it's a long, like the truck is wide, right? It's pretty wide.
It's big.
So it's a long swing gate. And so if you got to really be mindful where you're at to open it. You can push the button and stop it midway, but still it's like it opens a long ways. You're not in a regular parking lot. You're going to go load your groceries up and open the door open. Not to mention it's going to be halfway out in the aisleway, right?
Yeah.
So that is a quirk that I don't know.
But every vehicle has quirks, right? There's no perfect vehicle out there.
Far.
Every little vehicle you're gonna buy any new vehicle these days, there's gonna be something that you're not a real huge fan of. These are just little things, and overall, you still love the vehicle. Now, I've had a lot of talks about this, and I think you're hitting over 500K on a full charge, right?
Yeah. So about 528 kilometers on a charge. So for you guys in the US, that's like just over 300 miles on a charge, which that's pretty good in my book for as big as the truck is. And I think, honestly, I don't think my H2 gets that range on gas. So
that's about where I am on a Tacoma. I think I'm about 550 or something like that. It says 600, but it always ends up around 550s. Yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And if you're able to hit it one of those fast chargers for 38 minutes for a full charge, then you're laughing. Do you have a charger at home, or how do you charge?
I don't have one at home. I will soon to get one because the winter's coming up. So the winter's probably the most important to keep it plugged in because it's got to keep the battery warm. So basically what happens if you don't plug it in, it'll use the battery up to keep the battery warm. It uses the energy from the plug to heat the battery in the winter. We get fairly cold here. So I basically, I'm using the charger at my work. I get a perk. I get the charge at work for free. So that's always good.
Nice. Now, it's funny, Trisha. Mike and I are sitting at the BC Overland Rally. It was like 450, 500 degrees outside, super hot.
Hot.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we were sitting in this thing and with the AC blasting and we're nice and cool. And it was like the vehicle's running, but we don't have the exhaust fumes for the people that are sitting right beside us. So it was so cool. We're just sitting inside, nice, chill. And
yeah. Think about it. You're right. Yeah, you don't have the exhaust fumes.
They didn't even know it was running. They're standing right next to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're literally like 2 feet away, kind of idea, in the next booth. And they had no idea that we were in there.
Wow.
And I'll tell you the crazy thing is, so I sat in there quite a bit, I'll admit. I know I was supposed to be in my booth and doing my booth duties, but I sat in there quite a bit and had the truck running. I actually fell asleep in a truck one time, and I probably had it running for at least an hour and a half. I don't know.
Wow.
But I ran it all weekend, and it only used about maybe a 1.5% of the battery. Like,
wow.
It blew me away. That was something that did blow me away. Like, I was shocked at how efficient the AC actually performs in that truck, which that's phenomenal.
I know Clayton posted up a video too on Instagram, Clayton from Skyward Overland, of you guys sitting inside there too.
Oh, yeah. Come on over here and get cooled off. So we did something the other weekend, and I didn't even think about this. Asked us, hey, let's go to the drive-in theater because we haven't been this year. I'm like, okay, yeah, let's go. Well, you want to take the EV? I'm like, I got to make sure the headlights shut off because that's like the biggest thing. So when you put the truck in park, you can actually shut off the lights because it's got those. Basically, if you ever seen a Hummer EV, it says Hummer across the front, and it looks like the headlights, but they're actually the charge indicators on it. So they actually stay pretty lit, pretty bright. So you can actually shut that light off, which is nice. Okay, we got that set. So when we go to the movie theater, we're sitting there, or the drive-in. This is the old school one where you drive in, you look at the big screen. So we pull in, and we're sitting there, we roll the windows down. I'm like, oh, we can totally have the AC on. And we won't have mosquitoes. This is awesome. So we rolled the windows up. We had the truck running. What is a movie like? Almost 2 hours.
Yeah.
And same thing. It barely used any of the juice of the battery, and we were sitting comfortably, had the AC on, and no mosquitoes. It was perfect.
That's awesome. You've got a few things for that rig. You got a Gobi roof rack for that. That turned out really nice.
It did. It turned out really nice, and they were really good to me. I'm not sponsored by them or have a deal or nothing with them. Basically, I called them up and said, hey, I got an event that my truck's going to be in a display on. I want your rack on my truck. Can you guys have it built? And I think it was like 5 weeks or 4 weeks. And they're like, yeah, no problem. And if anybody knows, I'm not talking trash on Gobi, but Gobi sometimes takes a long time to build racks. Like they'll tell you 6 weeks and then it'll be 8 weeks, 9 weeks. It's usually a long time. And they were really good to me, and they had it built, and I had it basically a week before the show, which I had to drive down to the States and get it because I had to have it truck shipped in because it's so big. But yeah, no, they were really great to me. I was surprised at how quick they built it, probably because I dare say I'm probably the only one in Canada that probably had one. I'm probably the first one to buy one. Yeah, it fits the line of the truck really good. It looks super nice. It's solid, like all the welds and all the brackets are super solid on it. So I think it's got to be a great rack.
It looks so good. It's super high quality. Now, let's talk about the paint on this thing. What color do you call that?
So it's a Neptune matte blue. So it's a matte finish paint. It is not quite a royal blue, not quite a powder blue. It's green, I would call that. Basically, it's Superman blue. So basically, I call the truck the Man of Steel. And GM calls, and they've always called it the super truck. You got the supercar, right? So they call it the super truck. I'm like, man, what a perfect name. I just call it the Man of Steel. That's perfect. It's blue. I just need a little red Superman cape for the back, and I'm good.
It is such a cool color. I love that color. Like it is. I don't know.
It is
so cool.
That's one of the things that sold me on the truck. So when you do YouTube videos and you do Instagram, you need something that pops. You need something that sticks out. And I knew that color and off-road and with certain backgrounds would really pop and look good. Like Richard's Jeep is a bright green Jeep, and it really pops and looks good. This isn't like a super bright color, but it's got enough contrast that it pops and looks really good in photos. And that was important to me too.
Yeah. Factory bead locks.
Yes. It has factory bead locks on it. That was another cool selling point on that. And it's funny. I got the wheels in the day before I went to Overland Expo.
Yeah.
And I'm like, me with my bum knee, and I'm like, oh man, I don't need to do this, but I got the wheels. I got to do it. So I had to install the wheels, and it has, I don't know how many bolts it is. It's probably, I'd say 20 to 22 bolts all the way around it. So it's got a face ring that goes over it. So you have to take all those little bolts out, take the ring off, install the tire. And then I didn't realize that you had to buy, it's like the Ford Raptor. You got to buy a separate ring to actually make it a bead lock. So it's just more of a decorative ring, but you still have to take it off to install the wheel. Yeah. So I'll be getting those. Eventually I'll get the rings to make an actual bead lock, but man, they look good. They're all black, a couple little chrome accents on it, but they look really good.
Looks really sharp. So What are we missing about the EV Hummer? What haven't we talked about?
I got a light bar on the front that goes on the hood, and it's pretty slick the way it mounts. So the grill, like the light bar, the Hummer logo across the front, it has 4 little bolts that bolted into the hood. So basically they used 2 of those bolts, and they have a bracket that's bent, and it's bent in a way that it goes up and around the front of the hood. And it basically runs along the bumper. And honestly, if you didn't know that it was there, it's pretty hidden. It blends in really well. Almost looks like just the body line of the truck. Yeah. And that's pretty slick. That's M&R is who makes it. They're out of California, I believe. But yeah, it's pretty slick.
I thought that came stock like that. I didn't even realize that.
That's funny. No.
The lights look really good.
It looks that good, and that's a pretty slick light bar. If I wouldn't have ordered the factory roof light bar, which I just put on the truck now, I would have ordered there because they have another light bar that goes on the roof too. But yeah, that light bar is awesome. It's amazing. Like they did a really good job with it. Super bright. It's got the backlit function where you can do the amber, which I'm almost wishing they would have had it where it switched between white and amber, because amber's so good on the trail.
Yeah.
I might have to just put some sort of a light on there. But yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Amber's so nice in the dust, right?
Oh yeah, it's amazing in the dust. And on the Gobi rack, it's got mounts in the back for two lights. I think eventually I'll put 2 amber lights on the back of it. So yeah, safety. That's huge. Like I could tell you, if anything, if you're going to buy something for your truck and you go out with a lot of people, even a cheap, whatever, Princess Auto amber light is great for the back of your truck, just visually wise. You don't want to run into each other, right? We got some really dusty roads up here, and almost everywhere you go off-roading has some form of a dusty road. So definitely good to have.
For sure. Awesome. So once again, we're talking with Mike from the Unexpected Off-Road. Check him out on YouTube, Instagram. Eventually he will put up another YouTube video. Poor Mike.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a lot on the go lately, so I totally get it for sure. So
yeah, life gets in your way.
Exactly. But guys, we are sitting at episode 100. Like, still stoked about this. So
that's a huge milestone for you guys. And you've come a long ways. Like, your sound is amazing now. You had to iron, just like me, you had to iron it out from the beginning and learn your craft at it. And you guys have done it so good. Having Trisha on and having another person to bounce off of on stuff I think that's a good dynamic you got going there. And it's pretty awesome.
Thank you. I agree. Definitely interested in having a female perspective on it as well. And we got this little male guy in BC driving a Toyota and this female lady in Ontario driving a Jeep thing going on. And it seems to work fairly well for us. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. Having Trisha on has been a huge thing. So there's the odd time she can't make it, but for the most part, she's been there, and she does a lot behind the scenes as well too. So a lot of people don't realize the same thing with the YouTube world, right? A lot of people don't realize how much work it actually takes to produce something. So everything from contacting guests and in researching guests and doing the Instagrams and all that other stuff. She's a huge part of that. So the last question we ask every guest on the show is, what Canadian would you like to listen to in a 4x4 Canada podcast?
So I have a good one for you. And this is going to, Trisha's going to like this one because she likes different vehicles. This is perfect. This is so perfect. Okanagan off-road mowers.
Oh, come
Yes.
on.
These guys
Yes.
build off-road mowers, like the old sit lawn tractors.
Yes.
They are so awesome. And yes, I would love to hear their story. I would love to have them on your podcast.
Have you
look
seen
it
this
up.
guy
Go
yet,
look it up right
Trisha?
now. So it is okay. It's okay off-road mowers is their Instagram. They have a YouTube too. Their YouTube channel.
Okay, off-road
Yeah, mowers. The first time I ran into these guys, we were up in Kelowna, and they were just having a ball on these things. And I didn't even know they even had any Instagram or anything. We just randomly ran into them on the trail, and they were so cool.
Oh, I followed them already. That means I probably have them on my list.
There you go. Yeah, they're out of Kelowna. They got a shop, and he's similar to Grindhard Plumbing, right? They built stuff. They're crazy stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, exactly.
Wes gonna be like, oh, I'm just now talking about getting a lawnmower and freaking out.
I got no grass to cut, but I got a lawnmower.
No grass. I come down pavements down Toronto. Yeah.
That is a great suggestion. We definitely got to get those guys on. Anytime you build something different like that, right? Like just thinking outside of the box, right?
100%. Those guys, man, way outside the box.
Yeah. I'm sure this probably started off with a couple of guys looking at their lawnmower, sitting and drinking beer and looking at the lawnmower and looking at the ditch that goes to the road. And hey, I bet we can get through that ditch, and went from there. I'm positive that's probably how it started.
Or some 16-year-old that said, I can't afford a Jeep, but man, I could build a mini one.
Exactly. Awesome, Mike. I think we'll call it there. I want to thank you for joining me, and I want to thank you for putting up with me for the last year or so, Trisha. And we'll have you back at episode number 200, Mike.
Hey, that'd be awesome. I can't wait. Love it.
A couple of years away, but once again, thanks for joining us tonight, Mike. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. I was glad to be a part of it.
To all our listeners, we love all of you. To all our guests, both former and upcoming, we love you as well. And if there's anything you guys want us to talk about, or you got a guest in mind, let us know. If there's anything that you would like to critique us on, let us know. And that's the only way we can make things better. I have some ideas in my head, but I always want to listen to other people and see what they say, how to make this podcast better. Because in the end, this podcast is for the listeners. How we can make it better for you guys, we want to hear about it. So beautiful. Mike, Trisha, appreciate it. And have a good night, guys.
Have a good one.
Have a good one. Thank you.